Chelsea 1, Atalanta 2. Oh man, this is not looking good, is it? Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And today, that means dissecting. It wasn't even just a loss, man. Do you know what I mean? If it was just a loss, like, that's one thing. But it was self-sabotage at this point. We literally threw the game away. Like, we were up, we were in front, we were in the ascendancy, and Maresca decided to go, do you know what? I've got an idea. And obviously, I picked today to launch a new format for my match reviews to make them a little bit more interesting and digestible. So, today we're going to do 10 takeaways from Chelsea 1, Atalanta 2 in the Champions League. Number 1 is a really simple one. Maresca hates Christmas. That's the only thing I can put this down to, man. What is it with Maresca teams and Christmas? Look, I'm only talking about the last 2 years since he's been at Chelsea, right? But we have literally come from being in the top 4 and people going, oh, title challenge, and throwing it away and having a slew of awful games with bad in-game management, terrible decisions and poor performances from players in December, in the run-up to Christmas. What is it? Why does Maresca hate Christmas so much, man? I don't know, but patterns emerging is always worrying when they're negative, right, at the end of the day. Now, if Maresca makes it as far as next Christmas, now, I'm not Maresca out, I'm not that hyperbolic yet, but like I say, we're getting towards Graham Potter territory with today's performance. We're at least getting towards it. And if he manages to keep his job and we get to next December and the same thing happens again, like, then that's systemic. There's a systemic problem, and it is that Maresca hates Christmas. The second takeaway I got from today is not just one from today, it's one from the last few games, and it is the fast start is the new low block. Leeds, Bournemouth, even Burnley, although we come out on top in that game, these teams that we have better quality than, that we are expected to be, the issue used to be low blocks. The issue used to be they put 10 men behind the ball for the entirety of the game. Now what's happening? These teams are just coming out of the gates, attacking us right at the start, and it throws us off and we don't know what to do about it. For the last 4 games against opposition that we obviously should be beating, we are just getting absolutely blown away in the first 10 minutes of the game. Now, I know we didn't concede in the first 10 minutes of the game today, so this doesn't necessarily contribute to why we lost the game, but it is just starting to look like that, again, a pattern is emerging, and that pattern is, instead of teams going, we're going to put 10 men behind the ball, we're going to go, Chelsea look vulnerable in the first 10 minutes, so we're just going to go at them, regardless of who we've got in our team, regardless of the money that's been spent, you know, their £1 billion squad versus our £30 million squad or whatever it is, do you know what I mean? They are just going, whatever, forget all of that, we're just going to go, and I'll be interested to see if this keeps on happening, man. We have got more games coming up against teams that we should be beating. We've got Everton, Newcastle, okay, that's going to be a tricky one. We've got Bournemouth again, we've got Cardiff in the Cup, and I'm going to be really interested to see if these teams come out guns blazing in the first 10 minutes of the game, because that seems to be what's going on quite a lot recently, and we are struggling to deal with it. Number 3, we'll move on to a slightly more positive one, and I say slightly because it is only very slightly. João Pedro can still score goals. So the goal that João Pedro got today was a good, reasonably strikery kind of goal. Do you know what I mean? It was a nice, clean finish. It was nearly ruled out for offside, but, you know, Reece James and João Pedro saw as soon as they scored the goal, actually were like, no, it wasn't offside, and it wasn't. We got given the goal. João Pedro still has the ability to put the ball in the back of the net. Okay, that's something, I guess, if we can take something away from this game, especially seeing as how Liam Delap is now going to be out for the next 6 to 8 weeks, and João Pedro is probably going to see a lot of time in that striker position. At least he can score a goal, I guess, and that is literally about as positive as this entire video is going to get. Number 4, Maresca still needs to improve in-game management. That is self-explanatory, man. That is self-explanatory. We have seen, especially this season, if anything, I don't remember it being this bad last season, but this season, we have seen Maresca fall to pieces with bad substitutions and bad in-game management. We saw it in the Man United game. We've seen it in countless other times that we've had players sent off and not knowing how to deal with it, although it looked like he learned how to deal with it, like the Arsenal game. Brilliant. We came out with a draw in that game, and if anything, we definitely could have gone on to win it. And then we go right back here. This is like what was happening like months ago, man. Months ago. So Maresca's in-game management, I'll get more into the substitutes in a minute. But instead of like, this game was there for the taking. Do you know what I mean? This game was there for the taking. And he made panic substitutions. Again, cowardly panic substitutions. And instead of going for the game, he decided to try and defend the 1-0 lead. I'm not even sure if that's what it was, but at the end of the day, not good enough in-game management. Maresca has got a lot to answer for in this game. There are going to be many, many people saying Maresca out after this game. I can already foresee a couple of you angrily typing away in my comments, and go for it, man. Vent, get it out there. Let's talk about it. But Maresca's in-game management, it's not... It has improved, but it keeps falling back. He's not like consistently improving. Do you know what I mean? It seems like, he's made an improvement, and then all of a sudden he's deferred to do something today, like he would have done in the Man United game when Sanchez got sent off. You know, when he took Esteval off instead of Cole Palmer, which made absolutely no sense because Cole Palmer was injured. And today, man, like I say, I'm going to get into more of the specifics on the substitutes and a few other of the points. But Maresca's in-game management, awful today. Number 5, kind of a positive, a bit of a weird one. It's a 50-50 really, but Achiampong needs more game time. Achiampong was amazing in the first half today. So he lined up at right back, which was basically the right side of the back three, because Cucurella did his shadow striker thing again today, where he was getting all into the midfield with all the other fullbacks that were in there, and we'll get into that, like I say, a little bit later. But Josh Achiampong has shown today why he should be getting more time, and the likes of Tosin... Let's leave it a little bit before we talk about Tosin, but the likes of Tosin shouldn't be getting game time over Josh Achiampong. Josh Achiampong has been asked to perform in big games, and he's come in and done it, and then just been ghosted for weeks and weeks. We've barely seen anything of Josh Achiampong recently, and he was on the up, he was on the rise, and we've got a really young team in general, man. So when your team's really young, like, the argument can't be, he's so young. Do you know what I mean? The argument surely can't be, he's so young, because it's like, the whole team's young. Do you know what I mean? When your whole team is young, it can't be a thing, can it? It's got to be, okay, this guy was playing better, and you need to play Josh until he stops playing well, and then someone else comes in and has a shot because he drops off of form. But what's happened with Josh Achiampong is he played really well in a load of games, and then we just didn't see him for ages. We saw him in the first half today, really good. Second half, things got a little bit difficult, but I don't know, man. I'm not sure. He made a couple of mistakes. He is a young player that's going to make a couple of mistakes. But at the same time, Josh aside, I don't put our loss today down to Josh Achiampong. With those few mistakes aside, ultimately, he needs to be getting more game time to develop into a better player. Number 6, Maresca is still scared of red cards. He doesn't trust his players, man. He doesn't trust his players. So Trevor Chalobah got a yellow card in the first half. Half-time substitution for Wesley Fofana, right? Now, on the face of it, you're like, Wesley Fofana's great. It'd be cool to see Wesley Fofana playing with Josh Achiampong. Okay, yeah, no, that's not the end of the world. But the nuance, when you get a little bit deeper and you dig into it a little bit, Maresca obviously subbed Chalobah because he had a yellow card and he didn't want to see him sent off. Look, Chalobah didn't have an amazing game, but he wasn't absolutely terrible. He wasn't so bad in that first half that it was like, get him off. There was arguments for Jamie Gittins had not an amazing first half, so maybe Esteval could have come on for him and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Maybe Andre Santos for Enzo Fernandez, because Enzo Fernandez is just looking tired, man. Man has played so many games and is not getting any breaks. But instead he went for bringing Wesley Fofana on for Trevor Chalobah. And like I said, the only obvious motivation to that, because it didn't look like he was playing really badly, was that he doesn't trust him not to get sent off, because he's going to want him to play in the next Champions League game against Napoli. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But yeah, the optics aren't good, are they? The aesthetics of taking off Trevor Chalobah at half-time because he's on a yellow and wasn't playing terribly, but you're obviously just worried about him getting sent off, means that you don't trust your players. That means that there is discipline issues. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and not just with Trevor Chalobah, but if you've taken him off because you're scared of him getting a red card, that means you don't trust him to be disciplined enough to play the rest of the game like he's on a yellow card. And I don't think that's good, man. I don't really think that washes, to be honest. I think that if we can't... And the thing is, Trevor Chalobah is not a teenager. Do you know what I mean? Trevor Chalobah's like 25. Do you know what I mean? He's one of the older players in the squad now. He's Premier League age. He's, getting into his prime. And if you don't trust him not to get sent off, like, that doesn't look good. And ultimately, that comes down more to Maresca's management than it does Trevor Chalobah's discipline issues, because it is the manager's job to sort out discipline. Number 6, the experiment is still ongoing. And when I say that, I mean, so I've mentioned this a few times in my videos, and we've had 8 different centre-back pairings this season, right? 8 different centre-back pairings, which is a bit nuts. Now, it might be 9 at this point, because now we've seen Fofana and Badiashile play together, and I don't actually think we'd seen that before, so it actually might be 9 now. And I'm not actually talking about the centre-back pairings here, but ultimately we've seen Maresca experimenting a lot with his lineups and pairings in certain parts of the field because he's not convinced about certain things, or he still wants to try things out. Do you know what I mean? So when Enzo Fernandez inevitably comes off, and Reece James started in this game in midfield, which we kind of understand. He's been playing a bit more in midfield recently, but when Enzo Fernandez comes off, you would have thought the logical thing to do would be to bring on Andre Santos, because Andre Santos is actually a midfielder. But no, instead he brings on Malagusto, right? We ended the Liverpool game because of injuries with 4 fullbacks in defence, right? That was less of an experiment and more of like, okay, needs must or whatever. But this, we had options. Do you know what I mean? We actually had options. And by the end of the game, we had 6 defenders on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? We had Mark Cook in midfield, right? There was one midfielder in midfield. He wasn't even really playing in midfield. Ah, mate, it was so frustrating. So we had Mark Cucurella, Tosin Adarabioyo, Benoit Badiashile, Reece James, Malagusto, Josh Achiampong, all playing in like defence and midfield, and it's confusing because our midfield by the end of the game was essentially made up of Malagusto, Reece James, and Marc Cucurella, all of whom are classically fullbacks. I understand the concept of one inverting occasionally, do you know what I mean, to pack the midfield of this, that, and the other, but you've literally just got 3 fullbacks in midfield at this point, and by the end of the game, Moises Caicedo was playing behind Malagusto and was spending more time dropping into defence. The experimentation. Oh, man, you can experiment against Cardiff. Do you know what I mean? Arguably, we can't really experiment against anyone. We got battered by Leeds the other day. Do you know what I mean? But I understand the need for experimentation at some point. But when you're chasing a game, when you need a goal, don't put 4 fullbacks in your midfield, basically, which is essentially what happened. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely nuts. The experimentation, the tinkering, the absolute unashamed amount of tinkering that Maresca is doing in these games when we need to chase the game, because, like I say, we were 1-0 up, then it was 1-1, then we're down, and all of a sudden, instead of being progressive and putting on Estevao and Andre Santos, players that are more likely to get an assist or a goal, no, we put on Malagusto to partner Reece James, and we make Moises Caicedo drop back into defence even more to shore up. Like, madness. Absolute madness. The experimentation is getting out of control. 7. If the January transfer window is quiet, our season might be in trouble, right? Now, I've just gone on a bit of a rant about experimentation, but in terms of the midfield, our depth is in the bin, right? Romeo Lavia, still injured. Dario Asugo, been injured for ages, and when he comes back, he's still a really young player that's barely played any football, so it's not like we can just rely on him to come in and do a good job, do you know what I mean? Because we don't really know what he's going to look like in this Chelsea team. Moises Caicedo is our only solid midfielder. Andre Santos seems to be dipping up and down, like sometimes amazing performances, sometimes not so good, sometimes, like today, felt like a great opportunity to see Andre Santos on the pitch in midfield at some point, but apparently not. So our midfield is obviously a problem. Our centre-back situation is obviously a problem. Wesley Fofana came on at half-time, but went off. I'm not exactly sure what the injury was, but it looked like someone poked him in the eye, basically. He got some sort of very minor head injury, so he was substituted for Tosin Adarabioyo. Tosin Adarabioyo comes on and we can see the goal. Now, how much... my brain was awash at this point, so I don't exactly know if we can blame Tosin for that. But at the end of the day, after the horror show against Leeds from Tosin Adarabioyo, and he didn't even make the squad for Bournemouth, do you know what I mean? And he's a free transfer, we'll get some money for him. But the fact that we're still having to pull on the likes of Tosin Adarabioyo after such terrible recent performances, and obviously that's the defence, that's the centre-back situation that we've talked about, there's the midfield situation that we've talked about, and there's the striker situation as well. Liam Delap out for 6 to 8 weeks again, and that doesn't just mean he comes back after 8 weeks and then gets into the team and starts banging goals away. He should have played all of these games to start to have building up form already. So at the moment, well, at that point, by the time Liam Delap's coming back, we're not going to be looking at, okay, we've got loads of space to give Liam Delap time to, develop and stuff. It's going to be about salvaging our season at that point. We're going to need someone to get goals. So January, all of the news is saying January's going to be quiet for Chelsea, right? We're not looking to make moves. But man, if we don't, if we've got to go through the rest of the season with this team as it is at the moment, things could get really, really ugly, man. So January January needs to be reassessed if possible, if financially possible. We need to sell some players and fill some spots, get a midfielder, get a centre-back, maybe look at loaning Ivan Toney or bring a Mega in from Strasbourg if that's going to be possible. But we can't rely on João Pedro. Yes, he scored tonight, but that's 5 goals this season in 19 games, man. Absolutely not good enough. So January needs to be reassessed. Number 8. We have to beat Napoli now. And I say that because if we don't, so Napoli was maybe the one. So we've got Atalanta, Napoli and Paphos left in the group stage of the Champions League, right? We've done all right in the Champions League, and if we could probably have afforded to have lost against Napoli and beat Atalanta and Paphos, and then maybe get in that top 8, which means we don't have to play the extra qualifying game. The one thing we absolutely don't need this season is more games, because if we end up with more Champions League games, we've seen Maresca do it before. He's going to tank one of the cups, isn't he? He's going to tank the League Cup or maybe the FA Cup when that comes up. We've literally seen that happen last season when he was like, no, I just want to focus on these other things. He didn't come out and say it, but it was so obvious, man. So Napoli is now a must win, and that's terrifying because Napoli, Antonio Conte, Scott McTominay, Romelu Lukaku, I don't know if he's actually playing. I know he was injured for a while, but Napoli are going to be tough customers, man. Antonio Conte is a seasoned manager who will do whatever it takes to win. Do you know what I mean? And Maresca ultimately is still a bit green in comparison. This was one of our safety games, really. We absolutely, I'm not saying that it was ever going to be an easy game, but 100% we should have beaten Atalanta today. And the fact we didn't now means that Napoli is a must-win. Number 9, our Premier League rivals, and getting away from the Champions League a little bit here, our Premier League rivals are now Everton, Sunderland and Crystal Palace. We're not title challengers. We're not looking at competing with Arsenal. We're not looking at competing there, getting in the mix with Man City. We are looking at trying to secure a Champions League spot ahead of Everton, Crystal Palace and Sunderland. That is where our season is now, in all honesty and actuality. We had one pretty bad spell a couple of months ago, and we've just managed to pull it back from there, and now we're having another one, and things don't look like they're really obviously just going to get better. Do you know what I mean? Like I say, things might change in January, but if things don't change in January, we're going to have to rely on Cole Palmer to score an absolute bucket full of goals, which is a huge amount of pressure to put on him. I talked about this recently. Ideally, what Cole Palmer needed to come back to was a team on the ascendancy, and that almost happened. Do you know what I mean? That literally almost happened. He came back when we were doing really well. We just beaten Burnley, we just beaten Barcelona. Do you know what I mean? We got the draw with Arsenal, a couple of good results, and now all of a sudden, Leeds, loss. Bournemouth, draw. Atalanta, loss. We're looking at Everton, Newcastle, that's going to be really tough. We've got Cardiff, we've got Bournemouth again, we've got Man City coming up. Do you know what I mean? All of a sudden, now Cole Palmer doesn't get to come back into a team that's on the ascendancy and doing well and try and add to that. He now comes back into the team with the pressure of, we need you to be magic, otherwise things could just carry on getting worse. So that is worrying in itself. Do you know what I mean? That is worrying in itself. And like I say, man, I just think it's crazy when you look at obviously I'm gone into the Premier League now over the Champions League. Champions League still salvageable depending on how we do against Napoli. But when you look at the games that are coming up in the Premier League, we're not competing with Arsenal or Man City anymore. We're competing with Everton, Sunderland and Crystal Palace. And that is the best that we can hope for, I think, for the rest of this season. Number 10. Squarely comes down to Maresca today. And I tried to defend him, man. I tried to defend him because he's got a lot of haters and he has done really well. But what I'm starting to think about Maresca is he's tactically actually normally quite good, but he's not confident and he's not got the character. Do you know what I mean? Tactically, we can get that draw out of Arsenal. Tactically, we can beat PSG in the Club World Cup. Tactically, we can go toe-to-toe with Barcelona in the Champions League and all these big teams. Do you know what I mean? But when it comes down to beating the teams that you're expected to beat and you're faced with grit and fast starts and, do you know what I mean, the intangibles that aren't just about like how technically good the squads are when it comes to their togetherness, character and personality, this is where Maresca seems to be falling down a little bit. And the question is going to be now, not is tactically or technically is Enzo Maresca good enough? Because based on the big teams that we've beat, I would say that he is. But the question going forward now is, in order to win a title, you've got to beat these easier teams, right? And if the thing that we are struggling with and the thing that we keep coming up against is character, personality, drive, grit, passion and determination, Maresca doesn't have a tactical answer for those things. He has to mirror it with all of those same things of his own. And I'm starting to wonder if he's got it in him. we'll have to see what happens, man. There's a lot more games coming up. Do you know what I mean? December is rough. Normally, our dip comes a little bit later than this. It's come a little bit early now. So we're going to have to see what happens. January will be really, really, really interested. Like I said in one of my points as well, January is 100% going to be really interesting. So that's it, guys. I'm going to wrap the video up there. Thank you very much for sticking around until the end of the video. If you did, I hope you all had a wicked day. I mean, I hope you all had a wicked day up until this game. Do you know what I mean? I was having a reasonably bad day up until this game. And then João Pedro scored and I was like, oh, wicked. Maybe things... No, things aren't going to get better. So I hope you guys had a wicked day before this game and have a wicked day after this game. Take it easy. I'll talk to you all very soon. Peace.